I'm going to get some.
Get a glass for him, if you will. Another. Not the number 9.
There's a lot of work behind this meeting. About 27 years. But more recently, I'm trying to develop more coordination between the business activities and the state organizations of the Farmers Union. We came to a conclusion in Minnesota that we could pull the cooperatives there, the regionals and the insurance people together with the state organization and work out a coordinated program to expand the Farmers Union in Minnesota, where it's so very important we have a big, strong organization. It's important we have them in all states, but it happens that our regional business activities in St. Paul and South St. Paul live under the dome of the St. Paul Capitol. And we live under the articles and bylaws, our charter that's granted to us under state laws of Minnesota. And those of us who've had experience with the government in Minnesota, the Railroad Warehouse Commission, the governor's fact-finding explorations and all that sort of thing, we know the importance of having a farmers union in Minnesota that's big enough and strong enough not only to do the things we want to do in the farmers union, but keep the wolves off of our corporate necks. We've had real difficulty, real suffering and anguish because of the difficulties that have been imposed on us by our competitors and our political people. I have talked with Mr. Sifstestead more about this matter than I have any of the other business activities. We came to complete agreement. Then we met with the Minnesota officials. We came to complete agreement. Then it was a matter of arranging, after a few group meetings, then we arranged for the more formal meeting, which was had in St. Paul last Saturday. We had invited South Dakota to attend. One meeting, Mr. Lorix and Mr. Downey were in, and at the last meeting, which was last Saturday, where we attempted to formulate a working program, Mr. Opsahl and Mr. Lorix were in and observed everything we did. And they set the date for May 9th to try to do in one meeting what we did up there in possibly 4 or 5 meetings. Maybe we can do it. Probably smarter people out here than they are in Minnesota. We had verbal understandings. Mr. Sifstestead took the time to prepare a statement of policy, and it was submitted ahead of time, and nobody changed anything in it at all. It's a complete statement. And before I go into some matters that I want to discuss here, if it's agreeable with you and Mr. Sifstestead, it seems to me this is the time for Mr. Sifstestead to go in more in detail than I have and give these articles of faith, see if you can sell them. Is that all right with you?
That's fine. I'm sure that I could. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this statement of policy that had been prepared for this meeting isn't entirely original with me, other than the suggestion that it be prepared. Several of our staff members worked on it I took a punch at it a couple of times, and between the group of us, we came up with this statement of policy, which is identical with the one that was presented to the Minnesota group last week and adopted by them. And the only changes in this one here is the change in the name, South Dakota Farmers Union instead of Minnesota Farmers Union. So you all have a copy of it, and I'll read it to you. Probably at the finishing of the reading, you'll want to ask some questions about it, because they are kind of broad statements of policy. And if there are no questions, you'll probably wish to formally adopt it, and it can be signed up so we have something to go by, at least for the immediate future, and amend it or add to it as we go along. So I'll read it to you. All farmers' union activities are expanding in South Dakota. There are more people working in farmers' union activities than ever before. In order to make the greatest possible progress, it is necessary that all of the people who are working in the various capacities in farmers' union activities have a better understanding of what the entire program is, so there can be better coordination of efforts in a manner as to be more helpful in the building of the South Dakota Farmers Union and in the development of additional volume of business for the regional farmers union business activities and for the local affiliated cooperatives. To accomplish this end, it is important that all representatives make the same general statements about the total farmers union and co-op program in meetings with individuals and groups, thereby avoiding confusion in our ranks and in the minds of the farmers with whom we work. The following basic concepts or ideas are such that we do hereby approve them. 1. In organizing farmers into the South Dakota Farmers Union, the organizers will stress that the Farmers Union is a strong, active, and militant farm organization dedicated to working for the security of the family-type farmer. This is accomplished through a program of legislation, education, and cooperation. It is important to stress the fact that we live in a legislated economy, and that the welfare of the people in general, and the farmers in particular, is determined by this legislation. 2. The Farmers Union has endorsed the principles and do advocate that farmers must have 100% of parity to maintain a healthy agriculture. The Farmers Union is the only national farm organization which is fighting for 100% of parity for farmers. 3. The Farmers Union Grain Terminal Association, Farmers Union Central Exchange, the Farmers Union Livestock Cooperatives, the Equity Union Creamery, and the Farmers Union Insurances are lending their support to the fight for parity by making funds available, known as educational funds, and also providing additional special funds at various times to carry on the work of the South Dakota Farmers Union. Farmers who patronize the GTA set...
Well, there isn't much fight left for me now. If you look at the first page of these 9 articles of faith, number 1, in organizing farmers into the South Dakota Farmers Union, the organizers will stress that the Farmers Union is a strong, active, and militant farm organization dedicated to working for the security of the family-type farmer. That's the greatest purpose we could have. It's all stated right there. That's been our purpose from the beginning. There would be no need of a farmers union or any other farm organization without that purpose. That's all there's to it. And then this is accomplished through a program of legislation, education, and cooperation. We know pretty much about the cooperative effort. We know something about education, and we know something about legislation. It is important to stress the fact that we live in a legislated economy and that the welfare of the people in general, and the farmers in particular, is determined by this legislation. Now, that's all in one statement. And if we understand that, and if we believe that, and we fight for that, we'll win. The Farmers Union has, in varying degrees with different people, believed that statement throughout all the time that I've had anything to do with the Farmers Union. The job, as I've always believed it, was to boil down some 150 pages of resolutions and statements and whatnot and get it said in a few words, and then try to get everybody in the Farmers Union to say the same thing in about the same way and repeat it and repeat it and repeat it till one day we can pound it into the heads of the farmers of this country. If every farmer believed that one statement, we'd be on our way. But he gets, like everybody else, so many different statements. Statements so in conflict, one with the other, and editorials, whatnot, that he wonders what it's all about, and we end up in a high state of confusion. We have a good start. We've had an interesting period of time in which to get a start. Particularly these last 19 years of an economic revolution in this country. We've got some strength, we've got some character, we've got purpose, we've got some understanding, we've got a lot of experience, much more than the day in the 20s when the National Board of the Farmers Union handed us $500 to organize the Farmers Union in the Northwest. That was pretty thin in those days. So far as my part in this meeting here is concerned, I want to put whatever strength and emphasis I can put into it on the one phase, that's the legislated economy. And if in this room, after all the debate we want to go into, if we can all believe that as honestly as I believe it, thoroughly as I believe it, then I believe that we're going to make real headway in the state of South Dakota. I have never seen a farm organization or a political organization that could build and go anywhere with any strength based on a system of going out and collecting dues from people. Unless the program is subsidized, the state organization of the Farmers Union will not have enough men and money and time to build a farm organization. It just isn't possible to go out at $5 per and get enough people, have enough staff to carry on a successful farm organization. That's why in the very beginning, in the late 20s, when we laid down the pattern that in order to build a farmers union in these cooperatives, they would have to be built together, each supporting the other. The farmers union being the institution that carry on the educational work and explain what we mean by legislation, education, and cooperatives. And then the business come along and thrive out of the patronage of that educated membership. And in turn, when the cooperative made savings, set aside 5% or any other amount approved by the board to pour funds into a state organization so it could go ahead and build and expand to accomplish the end we started out seek. We finally got that rolling. It was very little for a long time that we prospered at the local co-op level and the regional level, and the regionals grew, and finally it ran into quite a substantial amount of money. that the regionals and the local co-ops pay into the state organizations, without which you just couldn't function, and without which we couldn't expand our business. That pattern was carefully conceived more than, well, about 27 years ago. It's not been changed. In some places, that's implemented by a checkoff system at the local level. But in any event, the whole purpose is to bring in membership, get an educated membership, to build the cooperatives, and fight at the state and national levels to protect the farmers. I want to undertake to demonstrate that the free enterprise system died a long time ago. At least I want to demonstrate that farmers, for a long time, enough of them, their leaders, have realized that they do live in a legislated economy. Otherwise, they would have never organized, in the 20s, the Corn Belt Committee, the sole purpose of which was to seek national legislation. The only place they could get it would be from the national government. No state by itself could accomplish very much. But in a situation where farmers had been forced to sell on one system and buy under another, where the one system under which they bought was entirely legislated, either by direct price fixing, in the case of public utilities, railroads, power, whatever it may be, or the legislation had been conceived at the state and national level to give people the power to concentrate capital in facilities where they could administer fixed prices. Almost a monopoly, but not quite. But the effect of monopoly in that prices can be determined, administered, and collected. All stems from a legislated economy that goes back clear to 1790, when the Tariff Act was imposed, which hit the farmers the hardest of all, because they bought high under protected market and sold their surpluses abroad in the free world market, and the world price with the surplus commodities fixed the price of the domestic distribution. Now, before I get into that, I would like to take just take one item and follow it to demonstrate what happens to a farmer under this system, this economy that's been built down over a long period of time. If you'll start out with the iron ore in Minnesota, there we have the rights of the ore company to go in there and mine the ore with labor. And labor organized under national legislation, giving organized labor the power, strong power, to meet the giants of industry and say, you will pay us this amount, and these will be the working conditions, and we'll have some vacation, and we'll have some rights, and so forth, or you can go down there and get the ore yourself. So, in order to get the ore, they sign a contract with the union, and they pay them the wages, and they're fixed, they're in working conditions, Social Security later added on, time and a half, double time, vacations. I'm not criticizing or complaining anything about it. I want them all paid because they eat our pork. They buy the cotton, they buy the wool. Farmers wouldn't have a market unless people are employed at salaries and wages that they can buy these things. I'm not complaining about that at all. It's a system. It's stupid not to have such a system. But when that ore is taken out, with all the wages in, then it's hauled to a port by a transportation system that is especially well considered and favored in legislated economies, so much so that they have had 12 increases since the war is over. 12. And those rates include all of the labor of the men who run the transportation system. A rate high enough so that they can pay the labor, all the overhead, all taxes, state income taxes, federal income taxes, the rate high enough so that when everything is paid out, the railroads have collected the taxes to pass on to the consumers. They've collected it for the Internal Revenue Department. And that's added on to the ore. Then it goes into water shipping, and the same process goes all over again. And finally it lands at some steel company, and the same process goes all over again. And everybody who handles it has labor. In every case, they wrap up a package which covers all the things I've referred to, including the real estate taxes, the personal taxes, the state income taxes, the federal income taxes, and finally to the International Harvester Company, who keep on wrapping it all up, interest and depreciation, and all the taxes, including income taxes. And finally it lands out here in urine in the form of a binder, or oil, or grease, or whatever it is, a tire. But all the things to which I have referred and alluded, they're all wrapped up constantly, and the package gets larger and larger and larger. And finally, a great big push ball from a wad of gum is built up to a big push ball lands here in urine. And a local dealer gets the article, and he wraps up all of his stuff in it, plasters on the outside, and it's a binder. It's something else, and the farmer pays for it, including all the dividends and everything. It's all paid for. Finally, by a fellow who's paid all of the taxes, the income taxes, the depreciation, the plant replacement, the labor man's vacations, and the Social Security is all wrapped up and passed to him in one big package. He can't pay for it. Mostly. He makes a down payment, half payment, gets some credit. Now, the trick is to make a system like that work, and that farm family, with good luck of the weather, to be able to produce grain and meat products and get enough for those products that he can pay everybody's income tax and Social Security and profits and vacations and whatnot, and have enough left to pay the taxes on the farm and interest on a mortgage or a payment on machinery and feed and clothe the family and send kids to school. That's the job. Now, I just took one illustration. Tell me an important thing that a farmer buys or he spends his money for that isn't legislated. Most farmers, if they own land, pay real estate taxes. And that's legislated, brother. He pays it or he won't be on the farm. Fertilizer would be the same thing. His groceries, his clothing, his truck, his automobile. Tell me one thing that he buys that doesn't come wrapped up in the manner I have described. Tell me one thing. Oh, he buys some oats from his neighbor, or a calf, or a cow, or a bull. That's not commerce. That's just horsing around the neighborhood. That, well, one or the other got to pay these things. Tell me one thing. When we pay Ernie Hams his salary, we're supposed to pay him enough that he can pay for that Oldsmobile that he brought me over here in, and have enough for his family, right, Ernie? And all of those things that I referred to are in that Oldsmobile you bought. So in the office, we allow you so much a mile. We fix the price, mileage, right? So that you can get along. Price is legislated or administered, or you can't stay in business. We recognize that. After World War I, as we began to see the change in the economy of agriculture, we went through World War I and we hit 20, 21, and 22. With all the pyramided costs, all piled on the farmer, and no protection of the marketplace, and brother, we were imported. Now we quarreled about it all through the 20s. With whom did we quarrel? We quarreled with millers, we quarreled with packers, we quarreled with all people who said that we lived in a free enterprise system, and that if we were going to go to the Congress of the United States and get the Congress to interfere with the law of supply and demand, we're headed for socialism. But it's a cockeyed funny thing that when railroads have a strike, they have to pay more money, right away they run to Washington, the Interstate Commerce Commission, to get an increased freight rate. Why do they ask for it? They tell them, frankly, we've had a strike and we've had to raise wages. Look, see, this is what it costs us to run railroads. And then it's showing before the Interstate Commerce Commission of all their costs, their salaries, their replacement, everything, plus taxes. And we got to have so much left for the stockholders. And then they get a raise. They've accomplished it 12 times since the war. They don't call that regimentation. They don't call that drifting to socialism or despotism, because it's good for railroads. But when we went down there in the 20s to get the Congress to give us the McNary-Haugen bill, which was a pretty simple device and didn't look for any gratuity from the Treasury at all, it merely assisted, where we imposed a fee on the local economy and accumulated enough money to export the surplus wheat and cotton, keep the farmers from going busted. Then we were right square in the middle of socialism. That was bad. We got the Congress finally sold. First time in the history of this nation that farmers, from the time we set up government, along around 1789 and 90, the first time that the farmers ever registered was 130-some years after the show had been set up. We went a long time with free lands and all that sort of thing that you're familiar with, and we lived with a horse and the oats, and sometimes the horse ate better than the folks. But the operating expense was low. You had enough oats on hand to carry the horses over. But it's difficult to get enough gasoline and oil to carry the farm equipment over. It's a different show today. You could breed horses, you can't breed combines. You can raise oats, you can't raise kerosene, you can't raise gasoline, you can't raise oil and grease and tires. The whole thing's changed. All of my folks were all of my relatives were farmers, both sides. I grew up going to farms. It wasn't much of a farm problem. They raised everything. Went to town and largely bought some clothes and sugar and pepper and spices, some flour. Sometimes they didn't do that. They took the wheat over to the mill and got it gristed, and then when they got twisted, yeah, know something about that. But the whole thing has changed. It isn't $2 and $3 an acre anymore. It's $30 and $40 an acre in Minnesota farm. Now they buy the push ball. Can't we remember the story of the push ball? And everybody started talking about the push ball all over the Northwest, so that the farmers will understand. When you say they bought a push ball, that they bought all of these different people's products with all of their labor and taxes and everything all wrapped up in it, they got the push ball. And brother, how they got it? We got the Congress twice to pass the McNary-Haugen bill. That was legislation. Then Mr. Hoover, giving some recognition. With the Federal Farm Board, we fixed the price of wheat by law at Minneapolis at $1.25 a bushel for number one northern wheat. And the price of Chicago at $1.22. Too hard winter, and what cotton was, I forgot. And that went on for a while. Fixed price. A Republican Party invaded socialism and regimentation. $1.25 for number one northern wheat at Minneapolis. Jim Wells was sitting here to my left, was working for the Federal Farm Board at that time. I know all about it because I went in a room in Chicago with McKelvey, the wheat man on the farm board, and Chairman Legg and myself, and the three of us sat down and fixed these prices. Just three guys. Up to that time, the price had been set by a bunch of speculators in Liverpool, where they bought the surplus wheat and the world price, reflected back less ocean costs and freight costs, the marketplace and back to you farmers, where you were getting 30 and 40 cents per wheat or 25, whatever it was. But all of a sudden, and for the first time in the history of this nation, three guys, because it was a law, sitting in a room in a hotel in Chicago, said wheat would be $1.25 at Minneapolis. I liked that. That sounded like the business I'd been auditing for years. There it was. Lasted about a year and a half, 2 years, Jim. And Mr. Hoover blew his top.
Sent like a note. I saw it. Was signed 18.